For me, culture is way much important than strategy. You know, in today when it's moving so fast, you can have a strategy, but it can change tomorrow. You just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what your customers are thinking. And so we need to have a culture that really works for us, that really allows us to work together, makes it feel good to work together, and makes it a place that we want to be at. I don't know about you, but you know, when you're spending 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, you want to come to a place you really enjoy. So I wanted to just give you some of my thoughts. You know, when we really look at who we are, we're just a really high-end, I suppose, consulting business. We're people, we're thinking about stuff, we're solving stuff, we're executing stuff. And what differentiates us from an Accenture, a Deloitte, is that we not only come up with ideas, we actually execute them. That's the difference. When I speak to the customers, that's the difference. They actually want us to put our money where our mouth is. When you're a consultant, you go and you come up with all these great ideas and then you bugger off. And then, you know, someone else is left to implement. So this uniqueness is a key differentiator for us. It's proved last year that we are actually anti-fragile. The fact that we've come through the year, we're still doing well. Yes, we've got stuff to do, but people needed us. People wanted us. And that we should be very proud of. What is solve? It's much more than just a tagline. It's a verb, it's a doing word, it's an outcome. I really want to encourage everyone, when you're thinking of a meeting, when you're going to a customer, write down on a piece of paper, what are we going to solve in this meeting? Why are we having it? And if you've got nothing to solve, don't go to the meeting. Don't waste your time, go and do something else. And in that way, we'll get much more efficient around, let's drive outcomes. But the solve, actually, if you think about it, is core to everything we do. It shapes our mindset, it guides our values, and it drives our behavior. So we need to continue that. So when I look at our people, what is the type of person we're really looking for? We're looking for high performers, clearly. We don't have in our model with a 10% margin people who are not performing. We need to be honest, direct, candid. In our world, it's really important that we fail and fail fast. We've got to admit mistakes, we've got to deal with them, we've got to re-vector, we've got to move on. Making mistakes is not a problem. It's not doing anything about them that's a problem. We need team players. You know, this isn't an individual game. I don't know where I've seen people solving problems where you solve better on your own. It's never the case. You need different people, diverse thinking, make you think differently, stretch you. And this is why when you have a look at building a team, you always want to get a diverse team. This is what diversity is all about. And we need to drive that. You know, if I really want to know what a white male chartered accountant thinks, I go and stand in the mirror and have a conversation with myself. You really need to get that diversity of thought. It's really important. We need to have people that are passionate about making an impact, making a difference. Because if you're not, you're just going to do what you did yesterday and you're going to do it slightly better. This is about every time thinking, how do we make a difference? Not only in our business, but for our customers. It's got to be different. If it's not different for our customer or it's not different for our staff, you're not solving anything. I talk about friction. Any solution you come up with, if it's not solving friction in your customers' lives or in your staff lives, it's not going to get adopted. They're not going to see it as a differentiator. They're just going to see it as something someone else could do. Passionate, innovative, low ego, selfless. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And lastly, courageous. If we truly want to be an open, transparent, impactful company, we've got to be transparent. It's no good telling half the truth or giving half the story, hoping you're going to get away with it or hoping people won't notice it. They always do eventually. The one thing about telling the truth is you never have to try and remember what you said, because the truth is always the truth. As soon as you tell half-truths, you have to remember which half you didn't tell, and that's when it unravels, every single time. Courageousness, really important as leaders in today's world, especially in South Africa, but it's a global problem. If you have a look at the World Economic Forum, the number 3 biggest problem in the world, leadership. We don't have leaders who want to make a difference. We have leaders who want to be in a hierarchy and have a position and own it. And actually in a digital world, there is no hierarchy. You've just got different people doing different things. And in fact, even my position, we draw it as a hierarchy, but it's actually more at the center of an ecosystem. It's more like a scatter diagram. It's more like unstructured data, no SQL. So these are the things I look for when I'm employing, when doing performance management, promoting, whatever. And we need our people to embody these characteristics, and I'd love to get feedback on it. So what do I mean about flexible? Flexible means we listen. We don't tell, we listen. We think, we ask, we adjust, and then we solve. It's quite easy. Novel ideas and creative ideas come from that process. People give you different thoughts. You think about them, you bring them together, you adjust your views, and you come up with great ideas. But we have to have great people who are prepared to listen, low ego, work together, love being in a team. Otherwise, we're not going to be flexible. Antifragile, I love this word. It's such a non-Oxford dictionary word. But it's an important word in today's world. Because in the old days, you used to have these big, vertically integrated businesses, and you do it end to end, and that's how you dominated the world. Today, that doesn't work. It's like, going into a fight in a big oil tanker, and your enemy comes at you in speedboats. You know what the outcome of that's going to be. The enemy might hit a few of your speedboats, but I tell you, you just have one hit on your oil tanker and you're down. And this is what we have to get right. And if you read Nassim Taleb's book around antifragility, the key theme of it is that you should never do anything that if it eventualizes, it's catastrophic. Doesn't matter how small the probability is, because if that probability hits, even if it's 0.001%, you're dead. You'd never do that in your own life. And so probability has got no place in a decision if its outcome is catastrophic. And this is why we need to be agile. So if we have one business that does badly, it doesn't take everyone else down. If we are innovating, trying, testing, we must do things that fail fast, clearly, but aren't catastrophic. We can do it so that if we fail, it's fine. We move on. We allocate those bits of money that aren't going to be catastrophic. It's like signing performance guarantees, which we seem to have a fetish for, that are so huge. We've got one with one of these problem contracts that is as big as the contract itself for 7 years. We've had to wheedle our way out of that one. But that, yes, a small probability of it being called, but if it gets called, we're in big trouble. So these are the things we have to think about. It's not just about winning the business, it's the rest of everything. Anti-fragile means we are resilient. When times get tough, we don't run away, we stay. One thing that I think we need to get better at is if you are not sure about something, ask. Normally, if you're not sure and you're having to ask, normally answers the question. But socialize those decisions. Don't think, I'm just going to do it because I don't have time, or I'm running off to play golf and I'm just going to sign this and go. That's when we really fall apart. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The issue is really, I think, simply we need to act like owners. We need to all part own this business. We're all leaders. We all run it. We're all here every day. We all will share in the upside if we get it right. And so we need to just think about the person next to you when you're making decisions. Own the decisions like you make them in your own life. Acting like an owner, it's sensible. It's very low ego. It creates sustainability. It's anti-fragile. We need to be here for another 21 years. This one I think is quite important for me, and it's something I've had to learn over years. When I was a youngster, I'd work 16 hours a day if I had to. The problem is I realized very quickly, especially as a banker, that you can't go after every single opportunity. You've got to pick the ones that there's a 75 or 80% probability of landing, focus on those. You have more chance of actually landing them. If you get yourself caught up in a whole lot of stuff, you end up doing a bad job on the 80%. Inputs and efforts are important. Hard work is important, but outcomes are critical. Doesn't really matter if you work hard. It only matters if you solve something, if you have an outcome, if you get to the end game. That's what customers want. That's what your staff want. It's no good just being the first one there and the last one to leave if there's no outcome. The one thing I've learned over time, at Barclays, we had a policy. It was called the no jerks policy. And it was actually quite good because it didn't matter if you were the best trader who made the most money. If you were a jerk, you were out. End of story. We've got to be like that. I don't know about you, but I don't like working around jerks. I'd rather have less money and more fun. And I think that makes it easier to work together. If we've got jerks in the business, I don't care how clever they are, they're not going to make us work together. They're going to end up creating divisions, creating issues, and then you spend a whole lot of time having to manage them. We need people who are focused on delivering outcomes. I know this is rolls off the tongue. Everyone, if you don't have it in your strategy or culture these days, it looks, like you aren't with it. You aren't in the fourth industrial revolution. But I really believe for us, if we're not pushing the boundaries, we're not trying different things, if we're not making mistakes, we're really not solving for our customers. We're not solving for ourselves. I really enjoyed Megan's comment this morning when she talked about, we shouldn't get hung up with the historic ways of work. If we want to work differently, we want to do stuff differently, let's do it. Let's try it out. It may work, it may not. Let's just acknowledge when it doesn't work that we have to change and do something else. It's our life. It's your life. You only get one. When it's finished, it's finished. So let's find ways of work, ways of treating each other, ways of doing stuff, ways of delivering, ways of solving that makes us feel good about ourselves, makes us enjoy what we're doing, makes us want to wake up on a Monday morning and be at work. So thank goodness the weekend's over. I can go back to work. This one, I thought about it, quite a lot. I was trying to see how I put this into a verb. And really, for me, what this goes to is, I don't know if you've watched Alice in Wonderland, but that Red Queen effect. They're trying to run because the door's going to close. And she turns to the Red Queen. She says, it's really interesting these days, but you have to run harder and harder just to stay in the same place. That's what inefficiency does. You've got to work harder just to do the same. If you waste R1, you've got to go and sell another 10 Rand just to make up for it. If you didn't waste that R1, you could have done something else. You could have either used that 10 Rand to do some development, do some innovation, do some strategy, do some free thinking. Now you've got to go and sell something. It's really important. The more we save, the more we can invest. And clearly, you don't want to save yourself bankrupt. But we need to think about that. And sometimes there's just things we shouldn't be doing. If you wouldn't do it with your own money, don't do it with company money. If you can save money, do it better, do it shorter, do it. Because it means we've got more money to invest in our future, invest in change, invest in skills. In short, my summary of it is being efficient allows us to have more fun. And I think that's a good return. That's a good return on investment. Those are the things we need to look at when we're hiring, when we're doing our 360 reviews, when we're doing our compensation reviews, when we're doing our promotions. It's why we exit people. If they're not part of that, if they don't subscribe to that, they don't show those characteristics, we should be swapping them out, because if you don't, it just means you or someone else has got to work harder. Harder, smarter, cleverer. They always say the best thing you can do is hire people smarter than yourself. It's tough because they put you under pressure, but that's good. As I said, you need to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And if you can get that right, then you'll have a lot of fun. So, when we hire, we really have to hire people we can learn from. Hire people who are committed to our purpose. Choose people who demonstrate our values. Ask them the questions, see what they've done. Get it right. If you hire right, you save so much time for yourself, because otherwise it takes so much effort to have to move people on. It should actually be so difficult to get into EOH, but once you're in, it's the best place to work. But they need to be flexible. They need to think about the business. How do we sustain it? How do we make it anti-fragile? They need to have an outcome focus, not just an input focus. They need to think differently, be innovative. And they need to be driven by efficiency. They need to act and look like an owner. How we manage. I think this is really important in today's world. There's not bosses. We don't tell people what to do. We mentor people. We allow them to try different things, learn different skills, go to different places in the business. We don't own them. We provide context and direction. We don't control them. You cannot do that in today's world. Evaluate the outputs. Don't micromanage the inputs. Let people do it their way, as long as what you get out is a good out. If they take longer, they can take longer. If they do it shorter, they do it shorter. Manage the outputs. I think most importantly, what I haven't seen a lot of, is we nearly need to support our high performers when they make mistakes. If we don't support them when they make mistakes, they're not going to try. Everyone's going to manage themselves to the middle. And then what happens is you get a declining mediocrity. It's interesting, I've told this story before, so apologies for some of you, but when I was a youngster and I went to see the CEO of Eskom, Chelani Kabashi, I remember walking into Megawatt Park, and it's huge. And we came out of his meeting and we looked down over this whole thing, and I said to him, "Yo, Chelani, this place is huge. How many people work here?" And he said to me, "About 30%. And what's funny about that is that it was actually true, and that's inefficiency. If you are not getting 110% out of your staff, you're wasting money for fun. It was quite interesting. We started at ABSA. Some bright person came up with an idea to get more black traders onto our trading floor because you couldn't find them in the market. But we found we had really good mathematical skills, black mathematical skills, in our middle office. And so they do all the maths, they understand exactly how every trade works, what the convexity of a bond is and all that kind of stuff. So we started something called the Markets Training Academy. It eventually became the CIB Academy and went from like 10 people to, I think it was 95 in the last year I went. And the one thing we did is we gave people a golden Willy Wonka ticket. If you got on the top 10 at the exam at the end, you could go and do any job anywhere in the organization. So it allowed people to move around, and the manager had to take you for a year. The interesting thing about it, the classes were 6:30 to 8:30, Monday to Friday in the morning, and then there was every second Saturday, there was work on a Saturday. Not one of those people ever asked me for overtime. Not one. They came, trained themselves, skilled themselves up because they wanted that certificate, and they wanted to see if they could get a Willy Wonka ticket and go and maybe work somewhere else in the organization. The flip side of it, which was interesting, was all of a sudden, managers started managing their best people because they knew if they didn't manage them, they could go anywhere in the organization. It was a very interesting outcome that we didn't think about. So all of a sudden, instead of managing up, everyone had to manage down, otherwise they lost their best people. So another interesting story on this is when I was doing some of these things at Barclays, we used to go and have a look at our CSR projects, and we went to a nunnery in Kenya. And what's interesting about it is you become the head nun. You can only be the head nun for 4 years. And then afterwards, you've got to go back into the pack and you've got to live with every single decision you made, because now you're just one of the workers. So when you make decisions for your staff, just think about how it's affecting them. Think about, could you live with it if you made that decision for yourself? It's quite an interesting thought. And that really changed the way I thought about managing people, is at the end of the day, the people need to manage themselves in a way. If you start doing things for the crowd, not just for yourself, you get a very, very different output. We encourage experimentation and give honest feedback. It's no good sugarcoating it. Otherwise, people don't know what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, how they can help. But it doesn't have to be talked down to. It can just be mentorship. I think most importantly as a leader in today's world is we need bottom-up input, because we're all owners of the business. You need to ask down, what's not working? What can I do better? How can I help you? It's not just deciding you want to do it. I remember at the EXO thing, someone came up to me, but Stephen, I'm such a control freak. I need to make sure everything's in a box. You will fail. Your youngsters will leave. They're so flexible today. They can move around easily. I know a lot of you have spoken, we're losing people offshore. But if you make people happy and they feel like you're looking after their interests and you're developing their career, I promise you, they won't go. I remember, I think I've told this story as well, but those of you who haven't heard it, we were doing our strategy once, and we were also doing the bottom-up. It was the first EXO event I did. And it worked so well with my senior managers, I did it with my youngsters, our Gen Y. And I went to go and see them. And the one guy came in, youngster, and we're having a cup of coffee, and he says to me, Stephen, I've been reading your biography. I see you're very interested in Egyptology. I said, yeah. I said, it's very mathematical. There's measurements of the pyramids that are exactly divisible between the Earth and the Moon. It's all these things, and it goes back to the Milky Way, and we were talking. He says, but you know that the pyramids are 5,000 years old. So I said, no, I know. They're one of the ancient wonders of the world. He says, so why do you use it as your management structure? So, that's courageous, but he was right. And if you think about it, youngsters want to be as close to the action as possible. They're energetic, they've got open minds, they want to make a difference, and the more layers we put in between them, the less they can do, the more frustrated they get. It was interesting speaking to Warwick yesterday, he's got a whole lot of people that don't want to work in corporate. But you know what they do? They work in corporate. They go and sit in Nedbank, they go and sit in ABSA, but because they're part of free thinking, they feel cool. They've got the same problems. And it's just the perception, how you manage, how they feel, how they can move around between jobs. We really need to be aware of that. We mentor, we provide direction and context. We do not control. How we pay. Now this is a big topic because it's a mess in this company. It's a total mess. And it's a big job to sort out. The one pledge I will give you is that we will sort it out. We will get it fair. We might not get it right the first time. It will be fair from a role-based pay, gender, and we'll be transparent about that. We'll run every year. We'll run from an ethnic agenda, a role-based pay, analytics across to make sure that people aren't paying their mates. It's very easy these days, and it comes out very quickly. We solved it at my last job by just running and then making sure people were being fair and equal based on performance. But we need to offer market-related pay. We need to do that work. We need to know what the market's paying for a certain level of job, and we need to pay that, especially where talent is mobile. And if we can't charge it out and make a business work, then we need to think differently. This is why these platforms, the scaling is so important. Today, it doesn't matter whether you're deving San Francisco or you're deving in Slihlui or KwaZulu-Natal, or you can do it. You can put it in the App Store. You can make money. You don't have to do it sitting in the US or in wherever else. For performance, we need to look at great outputs. Who's done good outputs? Not how hard they work, what's the output? Where they've added value. And we need to reward superior performance over average. Average can get average. Brilliant must get brilliant. And we've got to be honest about that. This is the idea that you just spread the butter over the whole piece of bread, the same thing, it's a disaster. That's when you lose your top talent and the business becomes mediocre. It's an important thing. There's one thing that I know about because I've been paying investment bankers for 20 years. This is their life. This is what they live for. It's crazy. But I mean, we just need to get fair, transparent, and we need to understand the market, and we will work on that. And love any ideas from people in terms of how we think we can keep talent. And it's not one size fits all. Maybe different things for different folks. I don't mind. But any clever ideas there, I'd love to hear about. Promote as well. We promote based on value added. We provide stretch opportunities. We want people to grow. We must let them move around the firm. Let them learn new skills. The more they learn, the better they are. The more money we will make. I think we need to benchmark externally all the time. Otherwise, you never know you're market leading. Always know what's out there. Always check what talent is out there. What are the possibilities? You bring one or two really good people into business, you raise everyone. You put a Maradona into a soccer team, everyone else plays better. This is really, really important. Don't do mediocrity. And I think we only promote the people that live our values and culture. If they don't get promoted. It's tough. It doesn't matter how good they are. They do not get promoted. In fact, they might even be exited. It's really important because that drives behavior. That drives the people that want to come and work here. Exit sometimes seen as a very negative word, but the reality is we cannot provide lifetime jobs for everyone. You know, you've only got so many managers per staff member. At some point, there's not going to be a job for someone. But that doesn't matter. They must leave here being our best alumni, our best brand ambassadors, thinking that was so cool to be at EOH. I'm going to tell my friends to go and work there, and if ever another job comes up, I'm going to go back. We've got to give them that experience. But the people who don't live our values and culture, on-team players, or solo artists, move them on. But when we move them on, you always treat people with dignity. Be honest, be open. Tell them why they don't fit in. What do they think? Have a conversation, do it properly, do it decently. That's who we are. That's how we'd like to be treated. In those conversations, I always think about if I was sitting on the other side, how would it feel? Try and put yourself in their shoes when you have those conversations. There's no need to destroy them. Just, I suppose, in summary, I think this slide sums it up. Our people create our culture. People are at the heart of every single thing we do. So we've got to live, as leaders, we've got to live these purpose every single day. Everything we do, solve exponentially, think differently, courageously, push the boundaries, do it together.